Hello and welcome to Preemie Chats, a place for parents and healthcare professionals to gather, share stories, and learn from each other. My name is Jenna Morton. I'm one of 3 co-hosts who present this weekly series on behalf of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation. I'm a career broadcast journalist and mom to 3 NICU grads, including preemie twins who were born at 32 weeks. They are now 12 years old. I live and work in Mi'kma'ki outside of Moncton, New Brunswick in Canada. Well, Preemie Chats is the creation of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation. The foundation is a parent-led charity that helps families during and after their NICU time through education, support, and advocacy. I hope that you can take some time to visit our website. It's there on your screen, canadianpreemies.org. You will find all kinds of resources, including links to our previous Preemie Chats. We've got about 3 years of these weekly series there for you to view. We have a podcast, we have parent resources, we have professional resources. Most importantly, on the website, you will find a community of parents and professionals who are working together to help our children thrive. And of course, we very much want to know what brings you to us today. Let us know where you're watching from and what brings you to Preemie Chats. Are you the parent of a preemie? Are you a grown preemie? Do you work in healthcare? We would love to know where you're watching from and what brings you to us today. So please be engaged, share your thoughts in the comments. And as we go through the presentation today, please feel free to share your experiences and your questions in the comments as well. Well, today is a special Preemie Chats for several reasons. And as you know, it is the month of May now, and many of you will be aware that May is when we celebrate International Kangaroo Care Awareness Day. That day is coming up next week on May 15th, which is the birthday of Zachary Jackson, who's the son of one of my guests today. Also happening in May is Mother's Day here in Canada and many countries around the world. That's coming up this Sunday, May 11th. And to celebrate that occasion, the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation is launching a new special project, a new product, on behalf of the foundation in collaboration with TBWA Canada. And I want to just take a few moments to introduce you to this idea. And I want you to think about a sweatshirt that you would wear and how comfy and cozy it is, and how when you have a sweatshirt that you love, it's because it kind of has that feel and that smell. Well, now think about it as a sweat sheet. That is the terminology we've come up with for this new product that we have, a special shirt that is designed to retain mom's scent and then seamlessly transform into a mattress cover for babies in the NICU. And if you're trying to visualize what that might look like, I have a little short video that I want you to watch, please.
I was expecting my baby to be next to me, but she wasn't there. So that was difficult. It's a roller coaster of emotions without her.
Well, there you have it, the official launch on Preemie Chats of our new fundraising product, the sweat sheet. which I find very tricky to say, but you can see it there on your screen. And the link directly to our page telling you all about that project is in the comments section now. So if you want to be able to just click on it as well, it's there. And if you are able to make a donation to the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, a donation of $150 would go directly to purchasing one of those for a family in need in the NICU. And of course, if you are not able to donate financially, you still have the most powerful gift that you can give to support the cause, and that is by sharing your story and by sharing the work that we are doing here. So I want to thank everyone who takes the opportunity to go take a look and to tell someone about Preemie Chats and about the sweatsheet and the work that we're doing and the information that you are about to hear in today's presentation. Well, turning to that, today we are going to focus on the topic of safety and confidence during skin to skin. We're going to talk about kangaroo care, and in particular, the practical, trauma-informed, and evidence-based ways that we can reduce risk, protect babies, and help parents and clinicians feel confident with every hold. And to explore this fabulous topic, I have two guests who are joining me today with a presentation for you. Dr. Yamili Jackson is a fellow preemie mom whose experiences with her son, Zach, ignited a passion for transforming NICUs and PICUs into zero separation and nurturing intensive care units. She has a background in risk management and is an award-winning innovator, author, and the driving force behind the creation of International Kangaroo Care Awareness Day. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
I'm from Houston, so I'm calling from Houston today.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to travel just a little bit further in the United States and have Dr. Ashley Weber join us as well. She is, among many things, a mom, a NICU nurse, and an assistant professor at the University of Cincinnati College of Nursing. And her National Institutes of Health funded research looks at designing, testing, and translating evidence-based family-centered care interventions into NICU practice. Welcome to Preemie Chats, Ashley.
Hello, everyone. Hello from Ohio, USA. Wonderful to be here, and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you both for joining me and for bringing such an important topic to the presentation. I think a lot of people are going to be really keen to hear what you have to say around kangaroo care and the ways that we can make this safe and make sure that everyone feels comfortable. Because I remember, as a NICU mom, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, this idea that you're going to hold such a precious little person for a long period of time. There's a lot of worries that I think both the providers and parents have when it comes to that. And I know some people are dropping some questions in the comments already, which is fantastic. And we certainly want to encourage that throughout the discussion. So first, I'm just going to take myself off the screen for a little bit and let the two of you give us a presentation, and then I'll come back at the end with some questions of my own.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So, so I'm Jamile, and I am an engineer. I have a doctorate in ergonomics and safety engineering. And Ashley here is my partner in writing research and finding how to, give safety to these babies where everybody is comfortable.
Hello, everyone. Again, nice to meet you. My name is Ashley Weber. I am an assistant professor in Ohio, so I'm a nurse scientist. I'm also a NICU nurse. I clinically practice in a level 4 NICU in Ohio, where we actually have a beds program. They have a beds program, maternal beds program, where parents are encouraged to sleep in kangaroo care. They're encouraged to kangaroo as long as they can. And kangaroo, helping parents in kangaroo is just hands down the best part of my job. There's nothing more magical than helping a parent get into kangaroo for the first time, and just gives me chills every time. So I'm delighted to be here and just share what I've learned from my clinical practice and from talking with folks, all across the United States and the world. So.
And I wanted to share why I work in this. I actually was a risk management consultant for the oil and gas business here in Houston when Zachary was born 24 years ago. And I am Colombian. So I had heard when I was a girl growing up in Colombia about this method for preemies that was invented in Colombia. And I didn't think about anything about it other than when Zachary was born, a nurse introduced Kangaroo Care to me. Zachary was born at 28 weeks. He was a 906-gram baby. And when she said, "Do you want to hold him?" The day after he was born, I said no. But I said, why? I said, I don't want to keep hurting him. I felt that giving him, not being able to give him a healthy start, I had hurt him a lot. And I just didn't want to hurt him anymore. And he was so little, so fragile. I've never seen a baby like that little. I didn't know the NICU existed before Zachary was born. And and she said, you will hurt him more if you don't hold them. And I always think if she would have said anything else, if she would have said, okay, we can do it tomorrow or whenever you're ready, anything else wouldn't have given me the notion that I was important for this baby, that I could do some things that no medicine, no staff could do, no equipment. And it was to keep him next to me, to keep him warm and comfortable, because it was introduced to me like something nice to do 24 years ago. So I was like, okay, I do something nice. Then we had a flood in Houston that shut down the hospital 3 weeks after he was born. And we had to keep him alive by touch for 9 hours until he was evacuated. And this horrible experience was part of a movie called 14 Hours in 2005. And, a lot of media, and then Oprah also made a beautiful video and gave us an award. But when I was in the NICU, I already had finished my doctorate. And I wanted to know, how can I help Zach? How do I comfort him? How do I help him sleep? Because you always say, if you calm down, if you are relaxed, it will hurt less. So how do I relax him? So I used everything that I could to keep this baby as comfortable as possible. And I was there every day. And then during the flood, I made a promise to help babies like him and families like ours. And his struggle to survive was not in vain. And here I am 24 years later, continuing the same mission. So I did a product for Zach that is, it's a little hand that simulates the hands of the parents that stay with him. And the nurses later asked me if I can make them for the rest of the unit. And maybe a couple of people, it is called the Zachy Zach. And obviously the Zachy is because of Zach's name. And later on, I looked that people were not doing skin to skin anymore. They were not doing skin to skin in the NICU. And I wanted to know why. And because, it's not lack of evidence. We already had a lot of evidence. And, right now we have like a lot of evidence. So there were 3 gaps that I found. One was education and awareness. There was, Kangaroo Care is not seen or, touched in the curriculums of doctors, nurses, therapists. So, everybody, and even moms, we don't know anything about it. Now with social media, it has changed a lot, but still there was a gap. So I started Kangaroo Care Day to contribute, to see if we could do something to elevate Kangaroo Care. And it has worked beautifully, and congratulations to everybody, because everybody makes it happen from every corner of the world. We receive messages of how people are celebrating. The other one was lack of safety and infrastructure. Babies are dislodging when they are in kangaroo care. The moms are falling asleep. The nurses, many nurses kept answering, "It's more work for me." And so I wanted to know why and how we can help, create an environment where it's not that way. And then the lack of metrics and analytics. If we don't count it, we give the notion that is not that important, because everything in the NICU, we count it. Everything that matters, we count it. And by not counting kangaroo care, we're basically saying it doesn't matter. If you do it, fine. If you don't, fine. But many hospitals are doing what is called the Kangaroo-a-thon, and that gives a really good opportunity to do analytics of at least those times. And then we got a great Gates Foundation to provide a grant to do an app, which we're doing to manage Kangaroo-a-thons. But our talk today is about risk management. If we manage the risks of babies falling asleep, if babies, if the nurses are comfortable that the baby's safe, not only we improve the duration of the sessions, but we are able to hold closer to the birth. So we don't have to wait. Some people, I talked to some moms, and I waited 3 weeks, and I waited 5 days, and I waited. So I asked, one time I talked to a dad, and he actually said, I never held my baby alive. And the baby died at 5 weeks. So, it's not acceptable anymore. We need to hold these babies, especially because of the evidence that supports that practice.
So what is this talk about, and what is this talk not about? So this talk is not about, criticizing current practices or how, teams currently respond to the challenges that they face, implementing KC. We're not suggesting, people change policies or clinical protocols. We're not, here to judge. We just want to have open dialogue. So what this talk is about sharing the work that we've done to create a safe experience, even if a parent falls asleep during KC. Our goal is to bring both the parent and the professional's perspectives together, which is grounded in research and lived experience. And then we want to empower you all to decide next steps. And again, once safety is ensured, then really the true connection in kangaroo care can thrive. So what is skin to skin or kangaroo care? So it is direct, typically upright, although some infants can go a bit diagonally, and it's direct chest to chest contact. The baby's only wearing a diaper, and parents ideally isn't wearing a bra or anything that would get in the way of that true skin to skin contact. Kangaroo has so many benefits. It reduces mortality, morbidity in infants. It promotes their brain development, their stability of their heart rate, temperature, oxygen. That bond that I get to see in my practice when helping parents in Kangaroo is just amazing. And those positive benefits we know last actually into adulthood, like over 20 years, you can see a benefit. There's improved breastfeeding rates, parent mental health outcomes improve. There's like less anxiety and depression. Breastfeeding rate. And babies are discharged earlier, and there's also cost savings to the hospital, and so we provide you all with a ton of references that you can look at your leisure, but the evidence is out there, and as a result, the World Health Organization came out very strongly in 2023 saying really like all babies should be kangarooing at least 8 to 24 hours a day.
Okay, and this is the references, and you're probably going to get the file for these. So when we talk about the safety of the baby, I wanted to know, why would some nurses help me, Kangaroo Care, and some nurses would not even suggest it? If my baby was the same, the hospital was the same, the condition had not changed. And then later in the research, a lot of the nurses and the staff would say, Kangaroo Care is more work for me. And I was like, well, what is the more work for you if the baby if the mom is the one holding, or the parent is the one holding the baby? And what I could deduct from all these responses, again, this is 2007 or 8. And unfortunately, it has helped a lot with all the evidence, but the responses keep saying that, being the same. It's more work for me. It's more so what I could conclude was, when the babies are on the bed, the nurse has full control of the safety of this baby, and they have the responsibility. When they put the baby on the chest of the parent, they give the control to the parent, but they keep the responsibility. So it is not fair for the nurse to be responsible for something she doesn't have control of. And it's not fair for the parent to be responsible for the safety of this baby, because she should be, bonding with the baby. She should be relaxed. She should be, not worried about if the baby's going to slide, or if the baby's going to fall, or if I'm going to fall asleep. So what happens in the sessions is that, because this nurse is giving the control to the parent, she gives them all the reasons, that all the things that she should be doing, or she is responsible for on the bed, for the parent to be responsible while they're doing Kangaroo Care. So make sure the airway is like this, the position is like this, that you stay awake, that the baby is midline, that the baby doesn't slide, don't close your eyes. All these things is because the nurse is very concerned about the safety of this baby. So, it is not fair for anyone that the parent is responsible, and that, the parent is always responsible, and the nurse, but in control of the safety of this baby. It should be, they should be just able to relax when they do the Kangaroo Care. And one of the things that happen is, because the dads, especially the fathers, are more risk averse, which means if you tell a father that I'm going to put the baby on your chest, but please make sure that they don't slide, because they can extubate, and then they know what an extubation is, the immediate response for many of them is, let my wife hold. And we are delaying the time that fathers are holding, because we cannot keep this baby safe. The father has to do it, and they don't want anything to happen on their watch. So they're more risk averse than the moms. So if a nurse is not comfortable that the baby is safe during transfer, or during or when she walks away, or he or she walks away, then your Kangaroo Care program is not going to advance, because there is that roadblock that is keeping the staff not very confident that the baby's going to be safe, and the baby is in their responsibility.
I will say to that, yes, Kangaroo Care, facilitating Kangaroo Care is work, but also I'm at work, right? I have a job to do, and it is the best part of my job. It is a time investment, truly. Those first couple of sessions, they do take longer. You do have to prepare the parent, mentally, emotionally. If I have a parent who's really anxious, I'll have them like practice with a blanket, and we can practice those transfers. But to me, I mean, the time investment, it just pays off in dividends, because if you train parents and really get them comfortable, then over time, I mean, they're good, and the monitors are quiet, the babies are comfortable, the parents are comfortable. And so really it actually ends up saving you time, I would say, in my clinical practice. It's really important to note that as sessions get longer, right, the likelihood of parents falling asleep can really put the baby at risk for falling, for line dislodgement. So, it's so important. Where I practice, parents are allowed to sleep. They kangaroo their babies, up 4, 5, 6 hours. That being said, there's a lot of risk controls in place to keep that baby safe. We don't rely on the parents' hands to secure the baby. We have a hospital grade bed that can be reclined, or we have proper recliner chairs, in addition to a KC safety device that holds the baby in place, so we know that the baby isn't going anywhere. And then, of course, always having a call light reached. And then, I always tell my parents, if this is true for your hospital, we can see the baby's vital signs and everything on the monitor, even when I'm in the other room or at the nurse's station. So I always tell parents, I can see everything, and then please call me. And then, for those first sessions, a lot of parents don't want me to leave. They are just very nervous, and, understandably. And so, I'll stay and chart and, stay there and provide reassurance. And then after they get, a couple sessions under their belt, usually, parents really start to gain that confidence. And again, it's just the best part of my job. As I said earlier, the World Health Organization does recommend that babies, especially babies in the NICU, get 8 to 24 hours a day of kangaroo care. And I don't know how you would do that without letting the parents sleep, but you have to do it safely. And that's really the push, and why I love collaborating with Jamila is that really focus on patient safety and risk management. So.
Yeah, I would only add now the WHO recommends that parents rest with their babies, but you have to be reclined. And the reason is because when you're reclined, your hips don't allow you to roll over. So if you are in kangaroo care and you have the baby safe, which is the recommendation, you don't want to be rolling over, because then you will roll over your baby. So that's why being reclined or sitting is the best. Obviously, if you're going to rest and sleep, you should be reclined. And if you don't have a recliner, you only have a bed, then put a lot of pillows behind you to make sure that you are not horizontal.
So what really is the issue when parents fall asleep during kangaroo care? Well, truly, the issue is that the parent isn't aware of their surroundings, right? And their hands can no longer provide safety or support. Their, attention isn't, on the baby. And so that's why it's so important to have, a safety device that's designed for parent sleep during kangaroo care, and to have either a recliner chair or a hospital grade bed that's, again, designed to support parent kangaroo care. And we know, though, that it's not just parent sleep, right? If a parent goes to reach for their cell phone, or is busy talking to a family member, or needs a drink of water, right? Those are instances too where the parent's attention can, be drawn away, and where the baby has the possibility of falling, if you're just relying on the parent's hands for the baby's securement and safety. So really what we need to address is, how do we keep that baby secure each and every time for the duration of the session, however long that session may be.
So the sleeping during kangaroo care, there is no evidence that there is something biologically wrong with sleeping during kangaroo care. The problem is the risk that we put the babies on if the parent falls asleep, or like Ashley was saying, it doesn't have to be sleeping. It's just like if the baby can fall, the baby can extubate like an injury, and the cost of an implant extubation, for example, there was a study that was done here in the United States, which might be, not that different in Canada, different who pays for it, but still the risk is the same. Is $50,000 per implant extubation. If you ask a respiratory therapist, they say, there is no problem. We just intubate again. But there is a problem because the babies have to have more hospital stay, more care, and forget about the parent that is holding loses the confidence that they can do it. They can do it safely, and so it costs a lot of money. Is detrimental to the safety and the health of the baby and of mental health of the parent, and then very likely your kangaroo care program can stop because you have to these accidents during kangaroo care.
So the concerns of nurses and doctors of kangarooing these high-risk babies, they're real. But it's just so nice to know that amazing work is being done, all across the United States, the world. There's ways to mitigate those risks. So please, folks, be welcome to check out this paper. And I just love this graph, and it shows that with the appropriate risk controls and response, and being really diligent, in your positioning, in your technique, in your training, what these centers were able to do was to significantly decrease the number of unplanned extubations that were occurring during kangaroo care. But again, it's really an investment. You have to have training, you have to have the proper equipment. You have to really have a program so that everybody's on the same page. And, it's so exciting to see in that graph in fiscal year 20, there was just one unplanned extubation, but, for that patient and family, that's one too many, right? So the goal is to always improve and to be always looking at these things. And, it's kangaroo care for many patient populations in the NICU can be very high risk, but there are also proven ways to reduce that risk and to do it safely.
Yeah, I remember I asked one time a nurse in a hospital, and she says, we've never had an extubation during kangaroo care. And I was like very impressed because, that's great, right? I mean, what are you doing? And she says, we just don't hold babies in kangaroo care when they are intubated. And that is a way to not have an extubation, but that's not what we want, or we are, doing this presentation is we want to hold them while they have the respiratory support, but then have them hold safe. So I slept with Zach. I am one of those moms that fell asleep during kangaroo care without permission because we didn't have anything to hold my son. It was just me and my hands, which I remember cramping and doing like these, and my neck would hurt. And so, just by looking at why are we parents falling asleep? So first of all, we are exhausted. We just had a baby. Even if I was there for 5 months, I didn't sleep well at home when my baby was in the NICU. We know now that parents produce a lot of oxytocin when they're holding their babies, and that is like giving them a sleeping pill. The babies help the moms relax. We calm each other. We co-regulate. The monitors were quiet because Zachary was stable, so the monitors were, silent. They gave me a very comfortable chair and a warm blanket, and they tell me to relax because it was the best time you're going to have with your baby. And I did. And I fell asleep without knowing. And I remember waking, and nobody woke me up. I woke up by myself, and a nurse was very close to me. So she did, manage the situation. And I woke up, and it was the best feeling of the world to wake up with my baby after all the horrible things that happened. And he was with me, and it was beautiful. But then, because I'm a risk manager, I guess, I knew that I put my baby in danger. So we don't want to have that. We, instead of trying to keep the moms awake, which is a very difficult thing to do, especially for longer sessions, instead of keeping them awake, why don't we find a way to keep the baby safe so the moms can actually rest, and that's when they can rest. So when I talk about kangaroo care sessions, and I know there are a lot of moms here and dads that held their babies or are holding their babies right now in Kangaroo Care Day. And this is an analogy that I found to try to explain how it is to be on kangaroo care. I know that, when they say in the NICU, that's a roller coaster, but to me, kangaroo care sessions is like an airplane ride. If you're going to go for a 30-minute airplane ride, you go to the bathroom before, you take care of, just your phone calls. You don't watch a movie because it's not enough time. There is not enough time for the service for, when they give you crackers and a Coke. And you can be in discomfort for that session, right? If it's a short airplane ride. But if you go from Houston to London, or even, now there are nonstop flights from Houston to Australia, which I don't know how many hours is that. The airline manages the safety and the security of the patients before takeoff, like they do if it's a short one, right? But for the long ones, they give you a blanket and they give you Wi-Fi. You have movies and you have all kinds of things to keep your mind occupied. So the plane ride, instead of feeling 10 hours, it feels actually shorter than the 7 hours that the flight is. So if you have somebody holding and you want them to hold for a long time, they need to use their mind, need to use their hands, or they need to do something, because it will feel longer than it is. And other hospitals, for example, say that you can only hold for one time, and it's like saying, in the airplane, if you go to the bathroom, you lose your seat. No, I mean, you can, if it's easy to do the transfer, and if it's safe to do the transfer, and the nurse is comfortable and the parent is comfortable, they can go take a 30-minute break and come back and keep holding the baby. And what is the most important is that imagine if the pilot comes and tells you, if you fall asleep during the long flight, everybody is going down and the plane is going down, and enjoy your flight. So it's not going to happen. It's very, very difficult. So let's talk about risk, because we manage risk every day that we come out of the house, every day that, but we want to show you, like, how do we manage risk when we are talking about kangaroo care. So a risk is something that can be dangerous or can cause harm or loss. In this case, in kangaroo care, many things can happen during kangaroo care. It's a very beautiful and effective if we do it safely, right? But there are a lot of risks that happen. And it's uncertain that if that is going to happen or not, unless it's what we call a crisis, which is the unknown unknowns, which is like, my hospital's losing power during the flood when Zachary was 3 weeks old. But right now, we know that a hospital has to be prepared for evacuations. Because all the things that can happen weather-wise and attacks or whatever.
So what I love about this graph is or this figure is that this is the same work that we talked about earlier, and they note that kangaroo care with intubated babies is a very high risk situation. But then also, again, they show that if you have, again, all these controls in place that are listed in that figure for you, that you can significantly mitigate those risks. I'll say, like, in the last 4 or 5 times of my shifts, all of my parents were sleeping in Kangaroo, and it was wonderful. But also, we have the proper infrastructure in place at our hospital. We have the appropriate devices. We have monitors. We have reclining chairs. So it is completely doable. But you have to have the support and the infrastructure in place to do it safely.
Yeah, and especially during Kangaroo Care Day, I know that we're pushing Kangaroo Care. But we wanted also to have this presentation because it's not just to tell parents you have to hold for longer times. And we want to, have these wonderful celebrations, and we want to improve kangaroo care if we don't help them do it safely. So let's have an example of one risk, and we go through the entire process for the risk management, and and it will be easier for you to understand. And also, it's an example, so it's just one risk. We should do this with all of the risks that happen and do it one by one. And this is usually done by a group of people with a facilitator and people from different, a diverse group, like parents, risk management professionals, doctors, nurses, therapists, everybody, because everybody has a different angle to this problem. So, so first of all, we establish the context. So we are in the NICU, and we want to improve kangaroo care for intubated babies. But one of the risks that we are identifying, because this is happening before we do it, not after. One of the risks that we are identifying is that the parents may fall asleep, and then obviously the babies can extubate. So the risk has two components. One is the event, so what can happen, and the consequence is what happens if that event happens. So for example, baby can fall asleep. The parent can fall asleep is the event. And from parent falling asleep can be different things that happen, but we are only choosing unplanned extubation because we're only doing one of the risks. So when we do the risk analysis, there is this little table that metrics that tells you what is the probability of happening and what is the impact if that risk happens. So the probability that a parent may fall asleep while holding and the baby extubates is very high if we don't have anything in place, right? So right now, we just want to know, if we don't have anything in place yet, is it important? And what it's a red one, because the likelihood is almost certain and the impact is severe, right? An unplanned extubation is a severe risk. So that alone is important enough to take it to the next step, because sometimes the risk is not that important and we just say, well, it's in the rare and minor, so the next steps are easier. But in this case is almost certain and severe. So we go to the next step, which is, what is the risk response that I'm going to have? We can do avoid the risk, accept the consequences, share the risk, or control the risk. And the next slides are going to talk about it. But I just want to say that once you decide what you're going to do, which response you're going to do, then we go to the number 5, which is metrics. Are we going to do it? Are we, what are we going to do, and how are we going to, measure the performance of this risk? So, now we're going to do the number 4 and go through those 4, because they are the only choices. There are only those 4 choices.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off that, Jamelia. So to give you, and I give this example to parents like all the time. I know in the last couple of slides we've been talking about intubated babies, meaning babies who have a breathing tube and are reliant on a tube for their breathing, which is a very high risk situation. But oftentimes, babies don't have breathing tubes. Maybe they're just on CPAP, which is, kind of just like a little face mask. Maybe they don't need any breathing support.
Right.
Maybe they just have a feeding tube. Maybe they have what we call a PICC line, a line that's central that goes to the heart. We don't want that being pulled out, right? Or maybe they don't have any of those and they just have a feeding tube. So the risks, can be very dependent on the patient. And, often I have many parents who are like, oh my gosh, there's so many leads, so much, like I'm just so terrified. And, based on the patient, if you have a patient who has a breathing tube and is reliant on that tube for breathing, absolutely, that's very critical. But for those babies that, have, just a feeding tube or just, heart leads, I'll say, here's what's going to happen if these heart leads get pulled off. It's just a sticker. I can put it back on. It's not a big deal, for that type of event. Or a pulse ox that measures their oxygen. Again, it's just a sticker. If it comes off, I can put it back on. So there are different types of equipment that would pose different sorts of risks to the baby and to the nurse and the family. So oftentimes, when we're talking about risk response, folks do avoid the risk. So Jamelia was just talking about how, there was a hospital that said, we just don't kangaroo our babies when they have a breathing tube in, when they're intubated. And if you don't have the appropriate controls in place to keep that baby safe, then absolutely that is the appropriate response. However, what we would encourage everyone to do across the world is to really move into that control response, really think about what is the infrastructure and talk to centers who have been doing this, because there are ways to mitigate risk. And so avoidance is appropriate if you don't have the infrastructure, but then I would argue, let's get moving on that infrastructure, because our babies and our families are absolutely worth that investment. And we know the benefits of kangaroo care. I see this a lot of times with accept. So oftentimes when, folks don't have a safety device to keep the baby secure, and they're just telling parents, hey, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep. Well, when you have to walk away as a healthcare professional, what, again, you're just so exhausted. Folks are falling asleep, and people say, yes, our policy is that we don't sleep, but we're waking parents up all the time. Well, at that point, the event has kind of already happened, right? Like, parents are already falling asleep. Something could have happened. And so it's really sort of this situation where you're trying to use the avoid response, but really you kind of fall into this accept mode because your parents are just falling asleep all the time. So again, I really, really would highly stress to move into that control response and give your folks the training and the resources and the support that they deserve.
Yeah, one example of the accept is what I just said before, that, we hold the babies intubated, and if they extubate, we just intubate again. So we wait until the risk happens to, to respond to it. Now, another type is the share. And this one is, for example, get more insurance. So we share it with the insurance company that if the baby falls or, has an injury or is fatal, then we're covered. You can share all the risk with everybody, but this share is more like, we want the teams to be responsible, not just the mom, not just the staff, but everybody. But we don't recommend these because the parents are going to fall asleep. So it doesn't matter who's responsible. If the baby falls, the baby's going to fall. So instead of trying to share who's responsible for the for the blame or whatever, we just want to not have that happen in the first place. And then obviously buying insurance. The hospital has insurance, but what if we not have to use it? And then the control is, we are going to do something before it happens to prevent it from happening. So we want to see what can happen. We will manage it. So for example, if the parents hold the babies with their chest, with their hands, can we have something that instead of the parents of the parents' hands, there is a safety device that we can use to hold the babies, so the babies don't slide. That we can, many of the reasons that we stop kangaroo care or the sessions cannot be as long or they are delayed is because the baby has to have an intervention, an ultrasound or an ROP exam, or the mom has to pump or something. So the safety device that, well, actually I did one, full disclosure, it's called the Zaki Zak. And that is because I wanted to make sure that, you can hold the baby, but you can also access the baby, and you can also sleep with the baby in place with the recommendations that you have. So you also need to look at the protocols that you're using. What is the protocol of intubating? Is it deep enough? Are we making sure that there is somebody there with the baby, not necessarily in the room, but watching, which is what happens in the NICU. But we also want them to know that when you do kangaroo care at home, we want them to be with someone while they do it. So it's a safety thing because, kangaroo care is the best thing to do after the babies go home. But in the NICU, we need to make sure that they know how to do it safely. So falling asleep is not a failure. It's not a failure of the parent, and it's not a failure of the staff, which we are trying to find blame, like who is everyone responsible? But it's going to happen. We know already after 25 years of looking at these that parents are going, if you let them and you want them to, give them enough time, like a long ride on an airplane, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, and you don't scare them to death that the plane is going to go down. More than likely it's like giving them a sleeping pill. So do we want to protect the infant with willpower of the parent, or do we have to have systems in place to prevent that? One of the things that is the most effective and probably the most cost effective as well is the safety device to hold the baby in place. When you look at evaluate safety devices, which I hope you do, ask always the manufacturer if it's safe and accessible for the babies, and if the parents can fall asleep with it. Like, what is their position if the parent is going to fall asleep? If they say we don't recommend falling asleep during, with this wrap, it's like if somebody says, I give you a seatbelt, but don't get in an accident. Because the main reason to have a safety device is to prevent injuries, is to hold these, the babies and not have to rely on the parents' hands. So one safety check that I always teach is if the mom is reclined, and when I say mom, is mom, dad, grandparents, whoever is holding. If she's reclined and she doesn't use her hands and she sits up, is the baby going to slide? If it does, then the baby is not fully being supported, and we don't recommend parents falling asleep unless you feel that that baby is fully supported. Now about the chairs, because chairs is also a huge reason why parents are falling asleep.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, to support those long durations, you really, really need, comfortable recliners. In our case, we use maternal hospital grade beds, but I just want to emphasize that folks, really have to be careful to have, again, the appropriate chairs. So there should be no way for like your hips to rotate. And then when I do facilitate kangaroo care for my patients and their families, and they're on that bed, again, they can get 5-6 hours. I always say as long as your bladder and breasts or chest can hold. And I've even helped parents, with a bedpan so that they could hold longer, especially for those high risk babies where, all it is the mom has to use the bathroom. So I can't stress enough how important it is to have the appropriate equipment. And I know, it is an investment, but incubators are costly too, right? And yet we find the money for incubators, and I would argue parents are natural; they perform better than the incubators, and so we really, really need to put that infrastructure and investment in for our patients and families so that they can really realize the true benefits of kangaroo care. So.
Yeah, and I think it's important if you are in the NICU and you're the clinician to actually sit on the chairs that you have for the parents, because that will give you a lot of insight of what could you do to make the parent more comfortable. A lot of the hospital chairs are made for larger sizes because they have to be for everyone, and if you have put a very small mom or dad, you can put some pillows on the side to so they're not like in the air, and see if you can recline. Now if you don't have a recliner, can you kangaroo care? Absolutely. If you have a device that will hold the baby, or else that baby obviously is going to slide. Now, can you hold without a kangaroo care device? Yes, I didn't, but that's why I've been working 25 years, so you don't have to, because it is tiring. I remember, you cramp, and hospitals say that babies extubate not during transfer, which I thought that's what was going to happen. My baby didn't extubate during kangaroo care, but when I was helping one of the NICUs, they said that babies were extubating 30 to 40 minutes after they start kangaroo care. So look at where the risks are. The risk is not during transfer because they are, it can happen, but, do you have the respiratory therapist? Do you have, an extra pair of hands? Do you have this? Do you have that? But also see when is it? Because when I ask them, when are they extubating? And they come back and they look at it and it's not during transfer, it's during kangaroo care. And is how long a human can stay still. After that, we start moving their shoulders and the neck, and that's when they go down.
So just to conclude, and we've talked about this, I want to make sure we have time for questions because I realize it's at the top of the hour. Please look at our papers. We encourage folks to develop policies that really support staff and parents. I was really blessed that I had amazing preceptors where I was able to practice those transfers several times before doing it on my own. And then with high risk patients, we do have multiple providers there to support the patient and family. So this is still an ever evolving area of research as we continue to kangaroo smaller and sicker babies, but really there's just so much evidence out there to support kangaroo, and so we hope that our papers and our talk provide you guys with the resources you need to do it safely. So, and we look forward to questions and comments. And here's my baby, now large man.
How old is he now? He's 5?
He says, I am 6.75, mommy.
Oh, he's so cute. And underneath is Zach with his girlfriend, Andrea. He's going to be 24 on Kangaroo Care Day. So happy Kangaroo Care Day for everybody.
Oh my goodness, look at those. I love seeing the then and nows and the grown-up preemie photos. They're so fantastic. I'm actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to take your presentation off the screen there. And I did, thinking, knowing that we were having this discussion, I've got a photo here of my own to share for a moment. So that was the first time I got to hold both of our boys together. They were 9 days old, and you can see that the proper wrap we have them in, and the recline. And so all of this talk is bringing back so many memories.
I see zippers. I think that's a few years back, right? The Saki Sag.
I think so. It's been 12 years, and it wasn't something I paid attention to at the time. But yes, I do think I have you to thank for that.
Did you feel good? Did you feel secure with those babies?
Oh yes, and I definitely slept with them. I don't know whether or not it was supposed to happen or not, policy-wise, but as a mom, it 100% definitely happened.
Do you remember, see, this is the thing, do you remember waking up? Because I remember, it was 24 years ago, and I still remember that feeling of waking up with him. It was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the same thing, I would go in the morning. I didn't stay at our hospital overnight once I was discharged, because we live about 15-minute drive or so, thankfully, from ours. And we had a toddler at home, but I would go in first thing in the morning and spend, I did go to the washroom myself, but I would spend hours in those chairs, and I want to highlight a few of the things. I'm not going to pull up a lot of the comments because some of them are long. They won't kind of fit on the screen if I pull them up. But if people want to go back and look at them, I want to thank especially Emma and Holly both for sharing some of their personal experiences in the comments and sharing similar kind of experiences. Emma especially shared about how encouraging it was in one place to be able to do kangaroo care and then move to a different hospital where the hospital didn't have the same supports. And it wasn't, when you don't have those recliners, when you don't have, the respiratory therapists and the staff on hand, it impacts what a parent can do safely and what an advocate she had to become. And she went on to ensure that more of those chairs were available for other families afterwards. And
trauma makes us want to make sure that others don't have to go through what we went through. And especially I've seen that in the NICU community. Parents are really generous with going back to that, what caused trauma, and then help. We have a really, really nice community. I'm so sorry that you have to go through that, because and that was one of the reasons that I did Kangaroo Care Day, was because a lot of the answers from the nurses were like, if the parents ask, we'll do it. And then I was like, how does the parent know to ask if we don't tell them, right?
And we have to support them. I mean, many parents are not scared, but many parents are terrified, and they need a lot of support and encouragement.
Everybody's terrified
and
at the beginning.
As a new nurse, I was like,
we're good fakers.
I remember my first transfer. I was like, oh, I'm fine, But
we're good fakers. I remember, I was terrified, but I was like, oh yes, let's come here, but it has to happen. It has to happen.
Mm-hmm. And on that point too, about making sure that the nursing staff and the healthcare professionals also feel that sense of comfort and confidence. I know you guys shared lots of resources, but we did have Sandy, who was questioning some of that. She's a nursing student and is interested in going into NICU care, and was asking those questions about how do you know when to do it, how do you know how to help parents. So hopefully she got some great information from this presentation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's videos too out there of transfers and things like that. Again, I was really lucky at the hospital that I work at. It's really an expectation, but then we also support our trainees, right, to have them practice those transfers so that they're comfortable. And then even as a new nurse, just being mindful of your limitations, saying, hey, let me go get a more experienced person to help me with those first couple times. And then again, with anything, practice makes perfect. It's true for our practice makes perfect for our parents. They become more confident. Same with clinicians. I would say just talk to centers who have been doing this, and please put the infrastructure in there, because it's
and it's not
the
expensive.
best thing to do.
It's not expensive. When you talk about, an ounce of milk being between $4 and $14, you can secure one baby for the entire, from admission to discharge with, just what less than half a day of milk that a baby needs. So it's not expensive. The chairs are also, reusable. You don't buy one chair for every baby. You have to buy the chairs for the whole unit. So it's really not expensive. When you talk about a $50,000 extubation, if you prevent one extubation, you can buy chairs for the entire hospital.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes those are the economic viewpoints that the policy people need to be reminded of, as much as those of us who get to benefit from those.
And I think that these, for example, and that's why we wanted to present it the way that we studied it, which is risk management, is because we always recommend for you to call your risk management department, call your patient safety department, there is somebody that should be, fall prevention. Those should be in the conversation when you talk about what can we do, because they don't know what you're doing. They don't know what is Kangaroo Care. So when you tell them, look, we are putting these babies on the chest of the mom, and it's basically like giving them a sleeping pill, and then we're asking them to keep the baby safe, and then you give them the solution. This is the things that we need. We need a Kangaroo Care wrap. We need a chair. We need training for the staff. We need, all these things that makes a holistic program to support Kangaroo Care. Another thing is, we always say Kangaroo Care 80%, at least 80% of the time that you're in the NICU. But then again, you need to have a support, because you cannot ask a parent to hold for 5 hours or whatever, if you don't have support, right? Because believe me, your arms start cramping, your neck starts cramping. So then you say, put the baby back, and then that mom is labeled as, well, she doesn't want to hold. And it's not that. She recognizes that she's falling asleep, she's going to put the baby in danger. And it's not that she doesn't want to hold, is that, she's her body is not staying, awake.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull up there, Emma, just comment on that yes, the parents are such a powerful voice in that conversation as well. And the more that we can share patient experiences, first person patient experiences, you can accomplish a lot with that.
And the parents can bring, for example, they can bring the safety device, right? You can buy it on the website and bring it to a hospital. So if the hospital doesn't have the ability to, offer it to everybody, at least your baby has the one that you need. So, and he's, like I said, is not an expensive, like a stroller or something. It's a really inexpensive device that you can bring to the NICU with you and learn how to use it. Obviously, we have resources as well, and whatever you use, obviously. But the questions the questions from the moms to the device that they're going to buy is the same. Can I sleep with it? And if the answer is no, then don't sleep with it because it's not made to sleep with it.
Sandy did ask if we could bring her question up there to see, how do you help a mom to do kangaroo care, to start the process? And I wonder, maybe Ashley, if you could give her just a little bit of advice on that.
Yeah. So like from a technical standpoint, or I always start off with the benefits, to your milk supply, to your baby's brain development, to your stress levels, and being on the chest with you is really, really like being home for your baby, right? Because your baby can hear your heartbeat, your breathing, your smell, your scent. And so usually I show parents, how to, I have them, drape the leads on one hand. And I know you can't really see my arms, but, and maybe like the CPAP or the PICC line on another, and then, make sure the baby's dressed just down to their diaper, have that chair or bed right by the incubator. Make sure you're supporting the baby's, head and butt, and then, lean down, towards the incubator so we don't have like a flying baby, and put the baby in. Again, I'm always right there. So eventually parents can do it independently if you train them correctly. But and then we just move slow, and we don't want any ploppage. So none of that. It's so hard to say, but it's just so, I'm just supporting them so they can go down slowly. And then, we secure all the tubes, all the lines with either tape or Velcro. There's many devices out there that can secure things. And so Jamelia actually has a checklist that maybe we can share on how to maintain the correct kangaroo care position. But yeah, you should be able to ask your nurse and physical therapist, respiratory therapist. And I'm sure there's a lot of great information out there from trusted organizations too. So I always walk parents through the process, and then that first session, I'm trying to be in the room as much as I can, just to make sure it goes smoothly. Because some parents are very scared, and rightly so. Every parent's different, so.
Every parent's different, and every NICU is a little bit different. So I think, you guys have both talked about the importance of just asking and asking again if you need to, and then looking, for mentorship outside of the space that you're in if you need to. And, this day and age with social media and the power of the internet, it's a lot different than it was, even just a few years ago. Even I know the difference for me in 12 years, and the information that is available now compared to the information when I was a mom in the NICU is just mind blowing. How much easier it is to find examples of things that you might have heard of, or you might think might be out there.
And I would say, ask, when can I hold my baby? When can I, and okay, if I can't hold my baby, what are the reasons? What milestones do we have to hit? And then if I always tell parents, if you're getting mixed messages or different answers, then maybe that's a time to, escalate things, to the charge nurse or a resource nurse, or just to get a better understanding for yourself why, because sometimes it's the baby changes, but just so that everyone's on the same page.
And from my perspective, I think that the most important thing that we tell parents is that Kangaroo Care is something that only they can do. Everything else, it's the nurses can do their job, the doctors can do their job. Your job is to provide this baby with this beautiful environment where they can actually sleep. And babies that can sleep, they grow better, they feed better, they feel less pain, they can, and when we talk about a Kangaroo Care device, is basically something that will keep the baby in place while you Kangaroo Care, and that you don't need the hands to hold the baby. So it can be a like the Zacky Zack is a strapless shirt that has zippers, so you can access the baby with it. But there are others, that are more like a shirt, and there are some like the Zacky Zack that is specifically for NICUs, but there are some that are or for hospitals, NICUs, PICUs, labor and delivery, all that. But there are others that are more for home, right? So you can do Kangaroo Care, the Moby wrap. If you know how to tie it, you can use it, right? But that one is not good for the NICU because you can access the baby. But anything that keeps your baby skin to skin with you, and in place, it's what is called a Kangaroo Care device.
Yeah, we've had some wonderful conversations and comments happening today, both on Facebook and YouTube, with lots of questions, and maybe we'll have a chance to be able to go and answer some of them in the comments section as well for those who come across this and aren't watching it kind of in live time. Because we are kind of coming up on our time limit here today together. So I would just like to thank you both for taking the time to join us and to share all of your wealth of knowledge with us. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And if I can add one more thing, is you should Kangaroo Care from birth or as close as birth as possible, and for 3 months after due date. So however preemie you are, then to due date, and then 3 more months. That's usually the baby will tell you that they don't want to be in Kangaroo Care anymore. They get hot. That's their first sign of independence, and then that's when you stop. But babies that are in NICU 2, babies that come home, babies that have NAS, all the babies without exception should be kangarooed, following the instructions of the staff, of the clinicians.
Perfect. Thank you so much to both of you, and I wish you a lovely Mother's Day weekend and fantastic International Kangaroo Care Day. Yes, thank you both so much.
Okay, any questions? We have the website, and I mean the email.
And to thank you, all of you who have been joining us in the comments as well and asking questions and sharing your stories. Thank you so much. That's exactly what we are hoping to do here with Preemie Chats. And a quick reminder that you will find a replay of this discussion today on our website after we have a chance to wrap things up and put it there. And of course, you can find our website at canadianpreemies.org. You see it there on your screen. I'd like to just also quickly thank our sponsors for making this possible and remind you that Canadian Premature Babies Foundation is a charitable organization. We do have a donate button you'll find on our website, and also on our website you will find that lovely new product that I showed you earlier, the sweat sheet, which is a wonderful new thing that's coming out for Mother's Day. If you're stuck on a gift for mom, maybe you want to go and donate one of those in her honor if you can. And if not, I just highly, highly ask that you take a moment and share this presentation with someone that you think would benefit from watching it. A quick reminder also that we are here doing Preemie Chats every Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope that you will be able to join us for the next one and that you have a wonderful weekend. Take care.